the debater's profile would look like. They then initiated debate by selecting a country and issue. The AI system gave them multiple issues, and they could select from those issues, or they could just reject all of them and ask the AI to come up with more issues. They then constructed their arguments, and the AI offered some help. Simply told them, I can offer you questions, outline a template, graphic organizer, teaching with my example, or half the answer. Half the answer in order to scaffold the learners in developing their arguments. What we found out is, as the learners used the system, they gradually moved from using half the answer to using using less of the scaffolding by the AI system. The AI system provided them with feedback. On the right side, you can see it provided them with feedback that was CFR aligned. It also provided them with feedback on the kind of language and tone they were using. And of course, we ended with reflection and updating of the debater's profile. So here's something very interesting. We checked two groups of students. One group of students used our GAI pedagogical agent. Another group of students used ChatGPT in its normal mode. We simply guided them on how to write prompts. So the second system involved guiding them, training them how to write prompts. And the first system was using our customized AI pedagogical agent. And a while ago, Professor Lin mentioned how important instructional discipline was. And I think Gina also mentioned the same thing. So it's a pretty important theme that the AI agent has instructional discipline. So you can see from the figures over here that the AI system, the pedagogical system, appears to function in a much better way than the teacher-guided prompt uptake. My conclusion is simply that, in contrast to normal ChatGPT use, the GAI pedagogical agent offers a structured, pedagogically guided experience aligned with best practices, leading to stronger, more consistent learner uptake. And overall, the format of AI instruction shapes both how pedagogical functions are delivered and how effectively learners engage with them. I just want to end very quickly by saying this here. I think we should be asking this question: how do I design the AI so learners can develop as thinkers, speakers, writers, and decision makers? AI educators must be psychosocial systems, not merely informational systems. The learner psychologically should enter a role to engage with the learning pathway and build their narrative of learning over time. The system should gradually develop learner independence through fading scaffolds. And finally, I think what we have discovered, and I hope you can also discover this in your own adventures, is that there is a necessity for intentionally designed AI pedagogical agents. I want to end here, and I want to thank you for your attention. I was unable in these 10 minutes to really show you how an AI pedagogical agent works, and even to provide you with an example from my student, because if I did have the chance, I would show you how the AI pedagogical agent works by simply uploading a PDF with very carefully developed prompts, and then the AI suddenly changes and develops an educator's brain. And yeah, so I want to end there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pai-Hsun. Our sincere apologies to the three speakers today. I know time is not far, it's far from enough to you because you're the expert in the field. But again, I think that our participants could appreciate what fruitful and insightful content that you can create, and also you can share with us. From Dr. Lin, he's giving us ideas of how we can leverage AI use to create the depth of knowledge so that the learning is beyond the surface level. In that sense, students are making meanings through their learning. And if you look at that in a psychological manner, you understand how engaging that it would be for the students. From Dr. Chen's sharing, she mentions that if we are doing this EMI, firstly, teachers as a lifelong learner, how could we pick up that self-initiated learning to adapt to the students' needs, and also adapt to a kind of culture that we can grow together. That it's from the teacher's part. Of course, that investment will directly contribute to students' learning, right? And then what Dr. Pai-Hsun mentioned, well, it's something that you are doing the design as a user interface and user experience a part that you actually made a personalized learning to engage students to get better prepared before you put them into this socialized process, so that the students are prepared mentally and also physically with those language, with those thinking. You actually put into a role play to help them to understand that every communication takes a place to make meanings, right? So you're not just saying, speaking the language just of that. You need to have a position so that you can understand how you should interact. That is actually a very key point that he's sharing. And with that, he's designing the AI to be a really scaffold and supportive agent, so that the AI can prepare the students before they get to the debate, which is just magnificent. So I would like to give the floor to our audience today as well, because a lot of our participants today, they also have plenty of experiences using AI in their classroom. And today we happen to have a very different aspects of looking at them. So how about we okay, so firstly, later on we will be opening up the time for you, so you can just turn on your microphone. Meanwhile, we can think about it. But we have a question from our chat box. It's from Dr. Benatli, and he said that the presentation is great, so that the main issue is not so much the language barrier as the students' lack of motivation. Students EMI course of economic figures, PA classes where the contents are explained again in Chinese for local students, but none attend them. And then he interviewed the students about the way they told him that they have no plans in the future, no ambition, no interest for any subjects taught in the university. That's just that, right? And they are focused attend university by their parents. All right. And then, okay, so how would you recommend to motivate the students to engage in the class and learn? What is it? What is in it for the students to stimulate them to study in the era of AI? Wow, that's a big question. But I believe that our panelists do have good answers. Can I first give the question to Dr. Lin? Because Dr. Lin, you're talking about how to make the depth of understanding so that they create the depth of knowledge in the classroom. How would you engage your students with that?
Yes, thank you so much for this good question. And actually, it is very hard for me to answer this question because we have different. I teach in a hands-on class. Okay, so usually we will design some hands-on activity for our students. So if I just focus on delivering professional knowledge, and actually my students don't have motivation in learning the content. So my idea is that because you teach about the economies, okay, I'm not sure that if you can use some AI to generate some interesting learning tasks for the students. Okay? For example, in my class, if in the past I just focus on teach the professional knowledge, and in my slide I usually use the text. But after I use some AI tools, I would try to design some interesting activity for my students and try to motivate the students. Okay, so I think that it's a very it's very important for the students to find their motivation. Otherwise, it is hard for the teachers to teach them. Okay, so this is the best way that I can think about right now. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ling. I agree with you. To provide some cases or scenarios that happen in the real life situation, reside in the disciplinary of economics would definitely help, because economics is everywhere. It's just that the students don't know yet. Instead of having a very detached, absolute formula being introduced, why don't you start with some cases or scenarios or some dilemmas or some common misconceptions that people might have, whereas the great economists, they figured that it's actually the principles or rules are just on the contrary, right? That will enlighten them. So I should have been thinking that, right? So that it's probably a way to do it. Dr. Benaclear, let me know how you feel about the answer, and let me know if you want to initiate further discussion, okay? We have another question from Dr. Damawansa, and that question is particularly given to Dr. Kasim. He's very interested in the pedagogical agent, and he wants to know that whether it support collaborative knowledge construction, or does it simply increase task completion efficiently? And the second question is, if AI provides too much guidance, can the activity still be considered authentic and interactive debate session among students? Well, it's actually a debate preparation. They will have debate later. So that's from what I know. So Dr. Kasim, I think that you know the best. Do you want to take the question?
Yes, thank you so much. I like those two questions. Thank you for your questions, especially the one on collaborative knowledge construction, because this is an area that I'm currently working on with Professor Yang Jiechi, trying to support collaborative knowledge construction through the GAI PA. It's very difficult, I can tell you that. But is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. It all depends on your instructional architecture and how you design your complete instructional architecture. Keep in mind that the GAI pedagogical agent is not the only part of your, well, for me, it's not going to be the only part of my instructional architecture. So I'll explain to you a little bit about how what we found through implementing our system. We found that the real class debating provided the socialized interaction that students needed. The students didn't just meet at the end to conference each other, to have a conference with each other in a real debate. Right? So it wasn't just a face-to-face, a real debate session, but prior to that, they also had in-class debate rehearsals. And this is where they were getting the socialized interactions from the collaborative learning was coming from there. But the GAI functioned in I would say in a complementary way to what they were receiving in class. If you're familiar with Taiwanese learners, they have a fear of negative evaluation, and they are also restricted by cultural norms. And there are several other difficulties that can prevent interaction in that socialized environment. So what we did is we provided them with individualized instruction first. Individualized, personalized instruction where they debated the generative AI pedagogical agent in a more low anxiety, safer environment, which prepared them with the strategies, the attitudes, and also a different kind of narrative identity regarding what debating means. I know that a lot of us focus on debating skills, and we focus on the strategies that AI can give to students. But I think that's a limited view of how GAI pedagogical agents can work. GAI pedagogical agents, when infused with the correct pedagogical features, can transform the narrative that students have about debating. And that's important. If students are fearing debating at the beginning, if they are worried they cannot remember vocabulary, if they are worried they're going to have lots of grammar mistakes, if they feel for some other reason that they cannot debate very well and they're feeling anxious about it, but if the GAI pedagogical agent transforms that narrative into something different, then I think we are achieving something with the DJI pedagogical agent. For example, using the GAI pedagogical agent, one of our students at the very beginning of the practice said that debating for her was like swimming in the sea and not knowing how to swim, where you could easily be drowned. But at the end, her reflection of what debating meant, her narrative had changed to something more positive, something more different. So we were collecting the students' narratives in the system, by the way, in the system. We were collecting the students' narrative, and as they transformed, we were seeing different kind of narratives from one practice session to the other practice session. So I want to go link that to the second question. If AI provides too much guidance, can the activity still be considered authentic and interactive debate session among students? Well, that's the thing. You can't be, for me, when I'm teaching, I really like what Gina said earlier on, like you got to be a good teacher from the beginning. Prior to even designing a GAI pedagogical agent, you have to ask yourself, what kind of instructor are you? And within the community of teachers, are you regarded as a good teacher? I mean, that's one sign that you're on the right track. If a community of teachers regard you as a good teacher, if you've taught one class from another and your teaching evaluations are high and your students are giving you positive comments, there's several indicators of what a good teacher is, and we can really find out who's a good teacher and not a good teacher. But this good teacher profile is really important before you design the GAI pedagogical agent. Now, for me, I prefer an 80% interaction for my students and a 20% where I talk. And that's the kind of mindset I'm taking when I design the GAI pedagogical agent. So I'm not thinking I'm not just thinking about how it's helping them with develop their debating skills, but I'm thinking how much of the interaction is coming from the student and is authentic messages from the students and authentic replies from the student with their grammatical mistakes. Because I certainly don't want to see ChatGPT constructed responses. I like seeing my students' work and their voices. I hope those two questions, I hope I've answered those two questions, but like I said, collaborative knowledge construction currently for me is more about developing a comprehensive pedagogical architecture where the GAI agent functions in a complementary way to what's happening in my class, where there is a lot of collaborative learning already happening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Kassim. That is just very insightful. What you were providing is a simulation for students before that they get to the real interactive debating process, right? And the debate is, as we all know, is very higher ordered, and it's students need to react simultaneously in order to make a good one. So, and I especially love the point that you said that it's actually taken into a narrative approach, so that the students have to understand that they are really speaking up as somebody who's thinking academically or professionally, right? To use the language. So I think that the proposition here by preparing students with the AI agent, right? And then come up with their positive presentation is actually resides in how we are preparing our learners to use the language professionally, so that they have this kind of persona. They have this kind of persona that they are using the language not just for everyday English or for, that also echoes to what Gina says, right? Dr. Chen said that we are preparing students to the next level. So we are reinvent the general education. We are reinvent everything. So I think that their understanding is just complementary, and it just works so well. And thank you again, Professor Kassim. So I would like to give the previous question of students' motivation to Dr. Chan. Dr. Chan, you just put in a diagram, right, with the bars of the students' evaluation of EMI courses and non-EMI courses. They are very similar to that. And then you are saying that we are in the EMI professional development, the goal for those is actually to like retrain ourselves, self-taught ourselves to become a better teacher, a good teacher. So this kind of like self-training is actually aiming at effective teaching and learning, right? So this will not happen without students' engagement. So how could you respond to the question saying that students are very low motivated? How can we do that? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Fan, for the question. Actually, they actually wrote down some responses just to echo with the question you just, kind of like connect between the first one and the second one. As a matter of fact, I would like to give my 2 cents with regard of the students' motivation, learning motivation, and how it actually how it's actually reflected on their use of AI. So let me be more clear on that. Is that a lot of times when we see students with low motivation, they tend to go to AI as soon as they receive any kind of classroom task or any kind of in-class challenges. And we actually see that a lot of times teachers or instructors would just kind of label it as like, oh, lazy work, they're just gonna, take the easy way out. But it's actually much more than that. What I would do often in my class is that I told students from day one, because it's the elephant in the room. There's AI. There's no way we resist it. We might as well guide them to use that effectively and constructively or productively, right? So what I would do is that in the beginning of the semester, I will actually ask them what they want to learn from this class. Okay, I will do some needs analysis. I'll also ask them about their view on AI. Okay, how they use their AI on their daily learning. Okay, I first get a sneak peek on that. And then I will share the results with all the students. So this is who we're facing, and these are the people who are participating in this class. And I will actually fine-tune my entire curriculum accordingly, because I know who I'm facing right now, and their demands, their needs are pretty concrete. So I actually, from which I will actually include a lot of the components as the response to their needs. So this is the way I kind of design for them to know that, okay, this class is basically response to what you want to learn and how you want to learn it. And the second thing is that this is the motivation part. So this is actually a way I elevate their motivation. And another thing about when I'm actually introducing a new topic or a task, I'll actually tell them how I want them to use AI to collaborate. Like, for example, they can brainstorm with AI, right? And their LLM tools just do that, right, with them. And then at the same time, I introduce AI literacy, because they need to know that the risk they're taking in terms of believing AI entirely. They need to understand the quality of the resources and sometimes the fabrication, right? The fabrication, AI's hallucination. They need to know that. So I actually would tell them, this is when I want you to use AI, but at the same time, I would like you to validate the sources and the information content. And then if you have problem understanding the English, the English part, you can actually use certain tools, AI tools, to help you comprehend. But at the same time, you need to have the awareness that it's not entirely correct, right? So I would actually incorporate this kind of thing with them. And then after they finish the task, I would then tell them, okay, when you are drafting when you're doing the task, I don't want you to use AI anymore. I want to see how you think, how you process the information. And then after we finish the final draft, I want you to submit one log. That is how AI would advise you to revise or improve your paper. And then I want you the log to be in the table form to compare between before and after, and to actually tell me how, what advice AI provides, and then how do you make your judgment, whether you like it or not, how you plan to incorporate that. So I actually have this sandwich method to actually help students to see AI in a more constructive and productive and yet still critical way. So those are my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Chen. It's not just 2 cents. It's a very comprehensive yet structured ways of doing, focusing on how we can leverage the use of AI to help students create their higher order thinking with a critical using to make justification, right? What you were just talking about is that when we are encountering to this products being generated by AI, we need to make fair justification. And that does not just come from your intuition. That comes from a synergy of the principles, the framework, the expectations of how this should be a good one, right? So they when they are making that judgment, they are also demonstrating how well they've been developed along the way, right? That is just absolutely wonderful. We have a participant that would be Dr. Lee, right? Dr. Lee, you had your hand on for some time. Do you have a question that you would like to ask? Or you accidentally turn on your microphone and also raised your hand? Well, it's okay. I'll put your hand down for now. And then anyone in our room would like to have this valuable, yes. So we have Dr. Fang, right?
Yes,
Yes.
thanks to Helen and Sonia for organizing this online workshop, and particularly I think focusing on how to integrate the EMI and the AI tools. So because earlier I just heard, I think one question to Professor Lin, also welcoming the other 2 keynote speakers to answer this question. So earlier I just heard Professor Lin mention about, say, he utilized some very different assessment tool when integrating the AI into EMI course. So would you like to share some just like a different assessment tool, very specific for just like integrating the AI tool into EMI course? I also welcoming the other speakers also sharing your experiences, or is there any other very different assessment tool when integrating AI and the EMI courses? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fang. Dr. Lin, we are very sure that you have a lot to offer.
Thank you, Dr. Fang's question. The example I just shared is that when I try to apply AI in assessment, I was thinking about that what kind of assessment that is hard for me to do during the process. So, for example, I just mentioned that when I divided my students into different groups, okay, they usually have their group discussion, okay, but it is hard for me to participate in their discussion or observe their discussion. So I use some AI tools to analyze their discussion content. And the best way is that you just need to record their discussion content, and then you can use the AI tools to transform their discussion into transcript. Okay, and if you have the transcript, and you just need to upload for my experience, I upload the transcript into the ChatGPT, and then I would share my criteria in assessing their performance. Okay, and based on the results, and I will share the result to my students, and they can review the AI content, and after that they can reflect the AI content, and then they can discuss with me about their performance. So I think that is just one example to assess our students' learning performance instead of just focus on the knowledge test. Okay, and if you want to generate knowledge test, it is also very easy for you to do that. You just need to upload the knowledge test maybe in the past 10 years and ask the Gen AI tool to generate the new knowledge test, and then you can get a new knowledge test for your student. But I think that that's just a very simple case for you to do. But I think the most valuable part is that how do we help our students to learn their learning performance? Okay, so especially for the formative assessment. So I think that we can try to reflect our teaching process, and if there is something we cannot do it, and maybe we can try to find out some AI tools to help us to assess students' performance, and then we can also let the students have the chance to understand their own performance during the process, instead of just wait for the final summative assessment. Okay, so
That's
this
yes,
is
that's
what to do. Yeah. Thank you.
That's just a wonderful answer. What Professor Ling here tries to remind us is that we as the content teacher knows the best of what students need to achieve at the end of this class. So by looking at the teaching, the learning outcomes, right? The learning objectives, we can also link that to the standards of your evaluation, meaning the criteria, the rubrics. You can have all kinds of names to say that, right? When you are designing your class, your outcome supposedly is there, right? Otherwise, there is lack of strong alignment between your learning objectives to the students' learning outcomes. So to align that, when you are developing your syllabus, you're also thinking about students' performance at the end of this class. To reach that performance at the end of this class, you are building them with the building blocks, right, along the way, so that they can get there. So that is what Dr. Ling mentioned about the formative assessment. And there is a huge use of formative assessment is that we're also collecting how well do our students perform, so that we can have possible interventions, right? So we can see that whether we need more to do something here or there in order to help them to achieve at the end of the semester. So that is also one thing. So to summarize that is that currently we may not have a tool, AI Gen tool out there for evaluation, but that is adaptable and can be tailored as long as the teacher provide the standards, right? And that is just one good thing, because for higher education instructors, we have so many different kind of focus, right, in our different courses. So there isn't one thing out there, but as long as you're very clear about your learning outcome with each and every learning tasks, right? They can be formative tasks or the summative tasks. As long as that you're aware with that, you can always comment your Gen AI to come up with some possible analysis, right, with that. And I think that it's also something that we can be very aware that when we are talking about EMI, we always want to, engage a student learner centered environment. It is because that when the students are generating, they're producing language, that is the only evidence, right, we can collect so that we understand where their understanding resides. And then Dr. Ling used a way is to collect students' conversation, to collect their discourse and then ask the Gen AI to analyze the discourse and to see that co-constructed knowledge in the classroom, right? Whether they are matching to our learning objectives or not. And that is just effective. And that is something that every instructor for EMI should be really aware of. What kind of language students are saying in the classroom, and what does that mean co-constructively? So that is one thing that we are putting our focus here. The discourse of individuals should be togetherly connected to a greater community, which is our classroom, so that we can have a collective focus on how well our students understand rather than individuals, especially in EMI setting. And with the conversation analysis approach that Dr. Lin just mentioned, I think that it actually reminds us a very good focus of how we can look at students' construct and conduct of language in the classroom. Dr. Fang, do you want to respond to that to see that whether Dr. Lin gave you the answer that you're expecting?
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Sonia Fan also mentioned about the supplementary and also summarized all of the remarks from Professor Lin. But because according to the response from Professor Lin, I think how to keep recording for the student conversation in a group discussion is a very important request. However, because when students utilize the generative AI for further discussion, and maybe they will not just like oral conversation with each other. Maybe you will utilize the prompt content and to input the text message in to the generative AI. So I'm wondering whether we also need to include just like prompt content into our assessment criteria to just like become a main crucial factor to assess a student's performance. I would like to hear the comments from Professor Lin. Yeah.
Okay. So for the assessment of students' discussion, that's one major test. I also have another different test that's for students' personal test. And that means that I will design some questions for them, and they need to type in their ideas. They need to propose they need to cite some reference to support their ideas. Okay, so in the personal task, I will upload the test into the ChatGPT and use my criteria to assess their performance. And the most important part is that I will assess their performance based on the web's depth of knowledge. Okay, so based on that, the Gen AI will generate some comment or suggestion for the students. Okay, so Dr. Fang just mentioned about that. Maybe for the students, content maybe it could be generated by the Gen AI. Okay, but for the students' reflection, I think that is the most important part for me, because I will focus on the students' reflection. Yeah, for the content, maybe I allow them to use the Gen AI to generate some contents or try to analyze some data. That is okay for me, but they need to make sure that the reference is correct. Okay, and after that, I would focus on assessing their students' reflections. Okay, and if the students can provide in-depth discussion in this part, and I think that they will have good performance here. So, but for the students group discussion, because they focus on discussion the issues that I provide for them, and so they don't need to use Gen AI to use in their discussion. They just focus on discussion, share their ideas, or response to other students the ideas. So I think that in this test, they don't have to use the Gen AI tools during the process. So they just need to record their discussion content, and I can assess their performance. So no matter you focus on the group task or personal task, I think the most important thing is that we hope that our students have the chance to learn to collaborate with AI instead of just take AI as a tool. And actually they also can learn from the AI. Yeah, but they need to understand the possible threats in using AI. Okay. For example, for the group discussion part, there is also a very important ethical issue, because if you want to record students' voice, and actually you have to ask for their consent. That's very important. So before I use this approach, I will ask for their consent to do this. Okay, so that's a very important thing to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lin. That's a beautiful answer for that. And I'm sure that our two other professors also have some comments to share with that. Can I firstly invite Dr. Chen and later on invite Dr. Kasim? Dr. Chen, there is also a question lying in our chat box for you. Probably you can also answer that within your synthesis here. Thank you.
Yes, I'm looking at the questions, and as a matter of fact, I would like to use one example to answer both questions. So the new question coming in is, thanks for the suggestion. Could you explain how to make sure the students comply with your rules about the use of AI? So I'm going to offer an example. So that's the task that I recently did in class. I actually ask my students to process a material, a reading material, which is an authentic argument essay article online. And then I wanted them to process that thoroughly before coming to the class. And during the class, I asked them to form in small groups, and I would like them to design questions based on that particular material. Now, I specifically ask them to design the type of questions that are either analytical, open-ended in some way, or inferential, which also is another type of analytical, right? Questions. And then after they finish designing the questions, they were first posted on, in my case, I run my class on Facebook. Okay, it's a closed group. And you can also do that on Padlet, okay? So the way is that I allow students to, I ask the students to publish the first draft of the questions. And then I ask them to throw the questions into AI. And then I want them to also upload the materials they processed, and then see how AI actually answer their questions. If the answers came out wrong, that means there are some problems with the phrasing of the questions, right? So they have to go back to examine. And then they will do a further modification, and then they will rephrase it and then post the second version. And if the AI actually gave them the an answer that's approximately to their likings, then I would say not good enough. Not good enough of the answer, because we all know how AI talks, right? Pretty much talk nothing, right? No substantial information. I say not good enough, okay? And I will actually give them comments, because all on Padlet or Facebook, I'll give them comments. I say, okay, I don't think AI did a good enough of the job, and you tell me why it's not good enough. Okay, and then they will do a lot of discussion, and I will circle around, and I will verbally explain to them the reason why I think there's room for improvement. And then they will have to put in draft 3. And then after all this ordeal, I will ask them to revisit the discrepancy from the draft 1, draft 2, and draft 3. And they tell me what have they learned from this interaction with AI, and also the conversation with me, discussion with me. And then this way, AI is being used under my supervision, right? And also I show my attitude, and also I help them optimize or refine the prompts, right? Because I will look at how they talk to AI, and trust me, we think this is this alpha generation is so good with technology. Whenever I look at their prompts, there's so much room for improvement, right? Because we all know in order to in prompt engineering, there's actually some rules to follow, and Google just updated the game rules, right? There are some components to be included, and then so I actually want them to be exposed to this kind of rigorous and proper training during the class time, while I can timely give feedback and also the discussion with them. And then, of course, they will also look at the submissions from other groups, and they will actually come up with an idea. Nonetheless, toward the end of when I'm wrapping up the task, I will ask them what they have learned. This is very important. This is when they have another small discussion to reflect on the process. Some of them will reflect on the content, precision. Some of them will reflect on the depth or width. Some of them will actually reflect on the tools, limitations of AI tools. So I'm also taking advantage of our financial luxury, because some of us actually pay $20, right, every month. So our AI is actually smarter than theirs. So it's easier for us to prep ourselves, right? And also because our AIs all interact with us on daily basis, so our AI actually has more intellectual sophistication is actually higher than our students, and especially with our professional knowledge. So for us, it's easy to prep for this kind of in-class open-ended task. But then for students, it's really difficult for them to, it will be a little bit challenging for them to proceed during the class within the time constraint. But this is also a very good way for us to know what to reinforce in the sense of curriculum or sense of instruction. So those are my 2 cents. Hopefully I explained a little bit further in terms of the 2 questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chen. Thank you so much. That's a lot that we can learn from, and they are very effective. In fact, that you are engaging them with a process, I would say that similar to Dr. Ling, right? You are looking at this as, we have this understanding that there could be content, there could be process, there could be like wordings, there could be like framework, a lot of things going on with a learning process. So you deliberately, divided them, and also let us understand, I think from both Dr. Ling, Dr. Chen, not for both, for all, and also Dr. Kasim showed us how we have the awareness that we are interacting with a AI with a very clear reflection, right? So let's listen to Dr. Kasim. I also believe that he also has something to offer.
I do want to say something about evaluating students' prompt engineering techniques. I think it's a very interesting idea, and it's certainly very valuable. But we do need to consider a few things, right? The first thing is that, and it's often overlooked. It's quite overlooked, but it's really important that prompt engineering itself increases the student's cognitive workload. So we would need to consider this. I mean, you already have so much to offer to your students in an EMI class. It's the language as well as the academic material. You're not teaching vocabulary and grammar. You're getting students to engage more with their academic field. But that's already presented to them in English, and it's already a high workload, even if they have B2 level English. So with the prompt engineering now included, that increases their cognitive workload. And I think a second concern is related to what Professor Chen mentioned, which is that we all have different kind of ChatGPT versions. So teachers have access to ChatGPT 5, but students might have access to a lower version of ChatGPT 4, and a minority of their classmates have access to ChatGPT 5, which creates some kind of unfairness for the students, because if you know something about ChatGPT, while you are interacting with ChatGPT, you are also changing your concepts as you are interacting with ChatGPT. So someone interacting with ChatGPT 5 and ChatGPT 4, it's a very interesting area of investigation. How is their prompt engineering changing as a result of interacting with different versions of ChatGPT, and not just different versions of ChatGPT, but Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude? Which brings me to another related issue. Some students are using ChatGPT, other students are using Gemini. So how do you create a very standardized system for evaluating your students' prompt engineering under those conditions? Because you can't really restrict which AI they're going to use. So I think it's a very interesting area of conversation, but I would still say that maybe we need to take a step back a little and maybe think very carefully about whether we want to implement that in our class. If you can do it successfully, go ahead, and as long as you address those concerns. But there is one more concern that I have noticed as a language teacher, and which may also happen in EMI classes. So because I also teach some EMI classes, right? So I want to talk about language students. So we designed an activity where students were developing their prompts and interacting with AI to produce a language learning outcome. But we found something very important. Majority of students, and almost everybody, might not know how to improve their own English. So if they already don't know how to teach themselves, and now you're asking them to use prompt engineering to teach themselves, that prompt engineering for me is not just based on the assumption that you can design good prompts. It's based on the assumption that you also know, if you're looking at language learning, you also know how to teach yourself language. And this is influenced by their background. They're coming from teacher-centered backgrounds, and they're coming with a whole lot of baggage in their suitcase already. So when they look at the horizon of ideas in front of them, they might not be ready to interpret those ideas unless they have some teacher guidance. So it also could happen with EMI students. EMI students are learning to engage with the material to produce outcomes. I don't know if you have found this. Professor Fan might be able to say more about this. I certainly have found this, that even a lot of EMI teachers do not know how to teach EMI and don't know the difference between ESP and EMI. Now, if a lot of teachers also don't know that, and now we get to our students and we are expecting them to produce certain outcomes based on prompt engineering, it can create some kind of a challenge. So I would say that that's a very real concern. It's a very real concern. Do students know how to learn on their own? I mean, we can brush it aside and we can say, no, they've got to have self-regulated learning. I agree with that. They have to have self-regulated learning, and they have to have metacognitive regulation and cognitive self-regulated learning strategies and a host of other kinds of abilities that make them capable as autonomous learners. But that would mean that they already have this before you asking them to engage in prompt engineering. So I would say that it's a very, very useful idea. It's a very interesting idea. But currently, my own studies on students and how they use GAI, how they use generative artificial intelligence shows that when left alone, they still have difficulties. Even if they are critical thinkers, they still have difficulties. And that GAI pedagogical agents might operate and function better. And I just want to end maybe by addressing one small question that was in the chat. I think it was about dialogical learning. Can we say dialogical learning is happening when one of the participants in the learning process is a pedagogical agent? Yes, why not? Why not? Because I have answered this question also in the ICCE conference when asked about the value of AI and the value of technology. It all depends on the actual designer who's designing this custom GPT, because I believe that AI is an extension of ourselves. So a poorly designed AI is going to function, a poorly designed custom GPT is going to function poorly, and is not going to act as a good participant in the dialogical interaction where there should be a clash of different perspectives and an exchange of different perspectives. But a well-designed custom GPT, which is also an extension of our humanities, should operate and function better. I believe there's a lot of promise out there for AI, as long as we don't lose that point as well, that AI is actually a mirror of what we are as human beings. It's an extension of ourselves as human beings and as teachers as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kassim, for your wonderful input to that, to summarize what we talked about today, especially on the pedagogical agent development, and also about the prompt engineering, how that engaged with the students' higher order thinking, and then how that linked directly to the academic and professional knowledge that we students are pursuing in the higher education institutions. So that is just a very wonderful keynote that you set for us for today. Thank you so much. And again, I am very happy that we have these three speakers today providing us wonderful and numerous things to think about, and then with some practical AI practices pedagogically in our classroom. So we couldn't thank you enough. I know the time is not enough. So in my mind, I'm thinking about having a second invitation in the near future. So stay tuned with us, and thank you so much. We can't express our gratitude and appreciation enough to our panelists. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Dr. Lin. Thank you, Dr. Chen. And thank you, Dr. Kassim. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And participants, please just use the form to give us feedback. Our panelists will also like to hear from you. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you. Wow.